welcome back to my channel. It has been many months since I've said that, and it honestly feels so good. I really want to just like hug you all through YouTube because I've missed you. It is December 27th. It is that blessedly confusing time between Christmas and New Year's, affectionately known as Twixmas, and I figured there was no better time to say hello for a number of reasons. The first, I feel like, is very obvious. I miss you guys. I miss my booktube friends that had their own channels. I miss chatting with my subscribers in my comment section. I miss creating content for you. I just miss all the things that booktube had provided me for 18 months to 2 years, to be quite honest. Secondly, I feel like I'm at that point in my reading slump where I'm actually missing reading and wanting to read. So the next logical step in that process is actually picking up a book. And I feel like doing that and holding myself somewhat accountable with you guys will help me to relearn the habit of reading on a daily basis, because that has definitely not been the case for basically the last year to 18 months. Thirdly, this is me saying that I am coming back to this channel. Or we're trying to. I feel like I said it once before and then I kind of but hopefully that's not the case. But what I realized after that last failed attempt is that the way I was filming, the way I was creating content just does not fit with my lifestyle now. I am a solo homeowner and a lot of my time goes to like doing stuff around the house, whether it's yard work in the spring and summer or fixing things, renovating things, grocery shopping, just normal shopping. There's a lot of time that's now dedicated to that wasn't the case before. So I'm going to approach the channel a little bit differently. Firstly, I think I'm going to start with once a week, and I'm going to hopefully stick to that. I'll apologize in advance if there are a week or two when that doesn't happen. Life gets in the way, but hopefully I can be consistent. Secondly, I think instead of doing as many sit-down videos as I did, this will probably be more of a reading vlog type channel for a little while. There are sit-down videos that I love to do, that I hope to be able to do. I love unhauls, I love hauls, I love my quarterly book brackets, I love wrap-up videos, I love, TBRs, but right now, to not put a ton of pressure on myself, I'm not going to like promise that sort of content. As I said, it'll probably be more reading vlogs. You'll see a lot of me giving my sort of real-time reactions to the books I'm reading. You'll also see a little bit of my daily life, because that is the sort of content that I'm really enjoying and have been enjoying for a long time, whether it's reading vlogs, lifestyle vlogs, renovating vlogs, etc. So you'll probably see a bit of that in these videos too, but it will largely be book content, what I'm reading, what I'm buying, what I'm unhauling, etc., etc. So that is all to say, yes, I'm back. Yes, the content will be slightly different, but hopefully you'll enjoy it all the same. I'm just trying to be gentle on myself. I don't want to put pressure on myself when I'm trying to come out of a reading slump that would inevitably make me enter the reading slump again, because I really honestly have not been reading, and I want to get back into it because, as I said, I do miss it. I miss it for the joy it brought me, for sort of the part of my personality, that an identity that it provided. And it's like, how could you say you're a bookworm or a bibliophile or a voracious reader when you haven't picked up a book in a very long time?
It's barely evening. I am just a grandma who likes to be in bed, and not gonna lie, I've been very much looking forward to this all afternoon because I've been anxious to read, which I don't even remember the last time I had that feeling. But I will just say, I was just looking back at my clips, and I couldn't be less photogenic if I tried. I looked like Chewbacca? No, that's not the thing from Star Wars. I'll put a picture of the thing on the screen from the first video because of the angle of the camera. And then I basically had like an antenna because of how my hair was sticking up. Oh my goodness, I am so out of practice. Anyway, I'm excited because I'm going to read. So one of the issues that I think I've been struggling with since moving in is finding a way to really integrate reading into my daily routine in the way that I was doing prior to moving into this house. I was always very much a morning reader. I read on the train, on the way into work, because of my commute. And then when the pandemic hit, I was waking up so early just naturally, so I'd spend like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes reading before I decided, like, let me go work out or take a shower or whatever before I decided to work. I find that here, my mornings when I wake up, all I really want to do is kind of lay in the darkness and like maybe do my Duolingo, maybe watch something on BritBox or watch YouTube videos, but it's nothing major, nothing that requires lights turning on or anything. So morning reading just hasn't been working for me. I'm thinking, because of kind of like, which is gonna sound really ridiculous, but I think because of the sort of feng shui of my house here and just like the rhythm of my life in this house, I might need to become an evening reader because my TV is downstairs in my living room. I very purposefully did not put a TV in my bedroom. And so I tend to come upstairs and I'll watch like TV on my phone or my iPad. And I'm like, this is the perfect time to just get like an hour of reading in. So I'm going to try to start forming the habit that I even read for just a few minutes when I come upstairs before I switch over to whatever else I might want to do before bedtime. So that's the plan. I am sticking to one of my sort of steps to overcoming a reading slump by reading one of my favorite books, also reading a book that isn't super, super long. So I've decided to reread The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje, which I know is a divisive book, but it is, in fact, one of my favorites. I'd meant to read it during the summer and just never got around to it. So I think I'm going to try to read it and then possibly rewatch the movie, which is also a favorite of mine because of the actors. So that's the plan. I also have on my phone, I'm trying the audiobooks on Spotify for a change. But I have Big Swiss by Jen Began or Began. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, that I'm going to be listening to. And I'm excited about that because I actually own the book. I think it's a signed copy, actually. It was in a independent bookstore up in Rhinebeck, called Oblong Books, and the book is set in the Hudson Valley, so it's kind of like a local book. So that's another book that I'll probably be chatting about in this vlog. But for now, I'm gonna sit down and see if I can get like an hour of reading in. Good morning. It has been a night. I am exhausted. So my beloved Florence, as I've named my house, has a subterranean basement that does fine with normal rain, but whenever we have kind of the biblical rains where it's like 2 to 3 inches, it floods. And I've done it a few times in the last year. And the most recent time was just before Christmas. And we had rain last night that was slightly alarming, and so I was concerned about the basement flooding. It didn't, thank goodness, but it meant that I kept waking up throughout the night, just because I was anxious about it. And then, on top of all of that, the power in the entire neighborhood, for seemingly no reason, just went out at like 11 last night. So that was fun. So I had all of that happening last night. Really didn't sleep much. And now we're here. But in other news, in book news, I'm feeling really good reading right now. Like, it doesn't feel like a chore. I'm excited to read. Like, actually, there was a moment this morning where I was just like, oh, I could pick up The English Patient again. Like, I'm excited to pick up books, which is a feeling that I have not had in a very, 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 very long time. So I wanted to give you kind of an update there. I did start The English Patient last night. I only read about like 25, 30 pages, which is like section 1 of the book. But I'm just reminded of how beautiful the language is in that book, and like Michael Ondaatje's like exposition and description, especially of like the desert. It just blows my mind every single time. And he just has these beautiful lines and these characters that are so interesting to like get into their headspace for. So I've been really enjoying that reread. For anyone who doesn't know about The English Patient, it's a World War II literary fiction, and it's about this guy who is discovered in the desert, severely burned. He's taken care of by this World War II nurse in Italy, and they're basically living in this bombed out villa, and she's taking care of him. He's remembering things, but they don't know his name, and there are just another cast of characters who end up coming across them in this villa. So, as I said, I'm very early in the book, but really enjoying it. I also started this morning listening to the audiobook for Big Swiss. I'm gonna listen to a little bit more of it before I talk about it, just because I'm still early into that one as well. But I feel like it'll be an interesting book to take with me on errands, because that's what we're doing. That's why I'm dressed currently. So prior to the holidays, I follow a bunch of like antique centers and antique and thrift type accounts on Instagram, and one of them that I was following was trying to advertise these avocado chairs, like mid-century modern avocado green chairs. And I saw a painting in the background, and I promptly reached out and was like, can you put a hold on this until after the holidays? And they agreed to, so I want to go pick it up because it's stunning. Sorry, if you hear the clicking, that's my heat. So I want to pick that up and do some more antiquing. So I feel like my audiobook will be a good companion for me. But yeah, I am gonna knock on all the wood, because I don't want to jinx it. But this is honestly the first time, probably since early 2022, that I've read and been excited about reading and like wanted to spend time reading. And it's a great feeling, because as I said, like, it has been so weird to me to be someone that people describe as an avid reader, as a bookworm, to be someone who that's part of your like personality and your identity, and to have really not picked up a book in the better part of like probably 18 months. So I feel like I'm on the mend, and I'm glad that I can take you along on this journey with me.
you guys. I am home from my excursion and I realized that I brought the painting that I picked up upstairs. So you're coming with me so I can show you. Behold my piece of art. I don't know what it is about it. Like, it's like very obviously someone who's a hobbyist. It's not a famous piece of art, but I think it was just like the anonymity of the woman. I think it's the colors, they're very moody. And like this way that it kind of looks like she might either be turning into a tree, like some sort of wood nymph, or just very simply just like pulling sheets around her naked body. I don't know what it is, but I'm so happy. So anyway, back to bookish talk and me drinking what I should not be drinking, which is a Diet Coke. I've been, while on my errands, listening to the audiobook for Big Swiss with its very, very erotic cover. As I mentioned, this is a signed copy from an independent store. I don't know what percentage of the book I'm through. I think I have like 7.5 hours left. But the one thing I'm noticing with listening to it on Spotify is that it divides the book up into chapters, and so like each chapter in the book is basically its own track, as if the audiobook is an album, which is fine, but it just doesn't, I'm not seeing anywhere where I can see easily like, oh, I'm this percentage through the book. But I'm like 5 or 6 chapters in. It is a dramatic departure from like the writing in The English Patient, so it's two very different moods, but I am enjoying it. It's kind of interesting because the book is set in Hudson, New York, which is actually a place that I might be going on a day trip to tomorrow. The book is about this woman, Greta. She's middle-aged. She's like in her early to mid 40s, I think. And she has moved to Hudson and is working as a transcriptionist for this relationship and sex therapist. And she basically becomes somewhat obsessed with one of his patients, who she calls Big Swiss, and this woman that she doesn't know, but that she's hearing all these like deep, dark secrets. The tone of the book is kind of dark and twisty. I will say that it has a lot of trigger warnings. It can be very explicit when talking about things like sexual assault and suicide and things of that nature. But Greta as a narrator is really fascinating because she just has no filter, really. And what's interesting is that because I'm listening to it as an audiobook, it almost feels more authentic to the book itself, because a lot of the book is actually basically the transcriptions. So Greta listening to these recordings and typing them. So there's something about actually the auditory component of the audiobook that I am really, really enjoying. That's where we are with the reading stuff. I am going to try to read more of The English Patient later. But I think for now, I'm just going to try to relax and watch a teeny bit of TV. Because I am knackered. Good morning. I can barely see you because I don't have on my glasses. But I'm in the middle of getting ready to leave my house. So I figured I would check in while I do my skincare. As I mentioned, I was supposed to potentially be going to Hudson today, which is where Big Swiss is set. Sorry, grabbing a towel.
but actually slight change in plans. And now I'm going to be going down into Westchester, which is nice. The too long didn't read it version is that I am still friends with one of my high school English teachers. I was actually the first class she taught, so she's maybe 10 years older than me, if not, and we'd always kept in touch after I graduated high school in 2008. Today, we are baking cookies. So I'm gonna be doing that today. Very, very excited. But wanted to give an update because I have been reading. I didn't read more of An English Patient yet because I fell asleep so early yesterday. And when I say early, like I came upstairs, I think by like 7 o'clock. I was out cold by 8:30. So yeah, so I didn't read any more of that, but I have been listening to Big Swiss. Why is the name escaping me right now? And really enjoying it. I've gotten to the point where the main character, Greta, has finally met Big Swiss, whose name is Flavia. They've met, and basically, I guess this is where things start to get even more interesting because her boss has told Greta not to tell Flavia what she does because she's the transcriptionist. So it's kind of interesting because we're listening to a session where Flavia, Big Swiss, is telling her therapist that she has met Greta, basically. And so now Greta is getting to listen to what Flavia thinks of her from that first impression. I'm still liking the book. I will say, though, that it's definitely not a book for anyone who is squeamish, who doesn't really like books that are sexually explicit, because that is just what is here. I don't personally mind it, but I could see where other people might find that very off-putting. But yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested to see what's going on. Hello! It's been a couple of days since I checked in with you guys. It's actually around noon on New Year's Eve. So by the time you're seeing this, it is 2024. Happy New Year. I really didn't read yesterday or the day before yesterday as I had kind of planned, which means I did in fact fail when it comes to reading every day. But I will say that it's not necessarily because I was dreading reading or didn't want to read or wasn't finding the books that I'm currently reading exciting. It was more that I just got busy. I spent all of Friday with my friend. We made these delicious, I'll put a picture on the screen, delicious chocolate raspberry chip cookies. They were to die for. We went and got Mexican food. We hung out and played with her dog, who is adorable. And then I didn't get home until 9:30 something to 10 that evening, and then went straight to bed. And then yesterday was like my errands day. So I spent like the morning going to the grocery store, going to Target, putting away those things. Currently catching me in the midst of folding laundry, which is very staticky right now. So this is interesting. But yeah, it hasn't been because I haven't wanted to read. It's just been, life's been busy. So I have been reading The English Patient. I am around page 71. The book's about 300 pages long, so I'm not quite a third of the way in. I think this is maybe my fourth time reading it since I discovered it. I want to say either late 2019 or early 2020. When I just say discovered, it's kind of like the Christopher Columbus type of discovery because the book has been around for decades. It's a Booker Prize winner. It's been turned into a movie in the 90s. Like, I was just slow on the uptake. But it is one of those books that I feel like every single time I read it, the experience is slightly different and I discover new things. And for me, I feel like the thing that I'm really noticing is that kind of the love story, this all-consuming love story that is really the focal point of the movie with Ralph Fiennes and Kristen Scott Thomas, doesn't feel like it comes into play anytime soon. I'm not quite a third of the way through the book. I don't think it really pops up for some time yet. And that's kind of interesting to me, that piece of this story that is so sort of ingrained and I guess like etched into my memory. I don't know how much of the book is actually focused on that. I don't really have anything planned for today because I am basically an old lady and like to stay home. I'm gonna try to read a little bit more. Initially, I'd kind of planned to end this vlog and pick up with next week's, but I think I'll keep you around because I am kind of planning to read a little bit more today and tomorrow. I am also planning to kind of do one of my favorite movie marathons, which is a tradition that I've had for a number of years now. I kind of pick some of my Helen Mirren movies that I love. I pick some classic movies. The English Patient usually ends up in there. Just movies that I really enjoy and could watch over and over again. I watch those. I have some strawberry raspberry prosecco that's in the freezer that I'll crack out later. I'm gonna order myself my weight in Thai food as my New Year's Eve meal and have that delivered. And I'm going to probably lay on my couch and just enjoy that and hopefully not fall asleep or sleep through bringing in the new year, because that would be bad. Why did I fold this? This does not get folded. And I don't know. That's kind of what I have planned. But yeah, it's basically gonna be a movie book type of evening, and I'm not at all mad about it, to be Happy New Year. It is January 1st, 2024. We've survived another year, guys. I have had a fairly productive morning, although I will admit I have not read anymore since last evening. But I did meal prep for the week. I got 3 of these beautiful salad mason jars ready. I figured I'd check in just to kind of sign off. I did read a little bit more last night for The English Patient, and so I'm now like a third of the way through. Still has my heart as it always does, but it was interesting because this is the first time that I've been reading the book and have also watched the movie kind of at the same time. But yeah, I really honestly can't complain. It was me and some Thai food and some of my favorite movies, and I'm actually going to continue my marathon today as I normally do. Last night I watched The English Patient and Anna and the King. Today I think I have a selection picked out. I don't know what I'm gonna start with, but I'm gonna do that and enjoy myself. There's also a slight chance that I might in fact head to the gym. We'll see. I don't know. The world is my oyster, basically. But I did want to say Happy New Year to you all and wrap up this reading vlog. As I said at the beginning of this, I'm going to try to make this a weekly thing to keep you kind of in the loop on what I'm reading.
what I'm up to. And I would always love to know what is of interest to you guys. What would you like to see in these reading vlogs that I may or may not be doing? Just let me know in the comment section, all right? But anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.